Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to the General Insurance Knowledge Training designed for commercial daycare owners and directors. We are so happy to have you all here with us and our presenter, Marcia Brogan. My name is Alyssa Ballard. I work at the Early Care and Learning Council, and I am joined by Jessica Klaus Shapiro, who is our Director of Policy and Community Education. Just a few things. We've got a small group with us today, which is great. We can have some awesome conversation. So if you have any questions for Marcia or Marcia asks a question, you can go ahead and put your responses right in the chat and we can make sure all of your questions get addressed. This session is going to be recorded and within the next week or so will be put on our YouTube channel. We'll make sure those recordings also get sent out to your emails that you registered with. And if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat and just say hello, we'd love to see where you're coming from in the state and maybe what your center is called, or if you're with a CCR&R, that would be lovely. And if you have any sort of technical issues, feel free to message myself or Jessica and we can make sure we get those handled for you. All right. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Marcia Brogan, who is an independent insurance agent with more than 40 years of experience. That is absolutely incredible. Her mission is to provide the best insurance solutions for your childcare. Marcia is the premier insurance agent for childcare whose passion is to help childcare owners flourish with proper business information through education and empowerment. She is the owner of Marcia C. Brogan Agency, LLC, a New York State and New York City certified women business enterprise, past president of the Kenmore Business Association, and past president of the Buffalo Niagara chapter of the National Association of Women Business Owners. Marcia is also the recipient of 7 awards, some of those including the 2019 Elite Women in Insurance, the 2017 Women of Influence Award from Business First, 2016 Women in Leadership Award from New York State Women Incorporated, and the 2013 Excellence in Leadership Award from the State Council of Early Care and Learning. Marcia is also a board member of Our Lady of Victory Charities, Supportive Services, and the incoming president for the Buffalo and Niagara chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Health. So you all are in incredible hands learning from Marcia. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Marcia, and I would love to kindly pass it over to you.
Great, thank you, Alyssa, and thank you, Alyssa and Jessica, for inviting me to put on this seminar. I'm going to go pretty quick. There's be some questions. I did this for in-home and we really moved along. There's a lot of information. So please, if you have any questions, please put one in the chat and we will address it right then and there instead of waiting to the end, because you might forget or I might forget where we were. So today's session is the role insurance plays in protecting you from the what ifs. Now, for some reason, I've got a double screen here and I don't know how to get rid of the double screen. So let me see.
You can still just see one on our end, Marcia.
Okay. All right. So
it looks great from our end.
Okay. So a little bit about me. My background is in human services. I focused on developmental disabilities and gerontology. But I wanted to follow my own heart. And after like 6 or 7 years in the field, I decided to open my own business 40 years ago. Which in my mind, it's still a little bit of human services because I'm helping people meet their needs and answer their questions. I'm also a wife, a mom of 3 adult sons. 2 of my sons are ADHD, one is an auditory processing disorder, and my husband's also ADHD. So needless to say, I think I'm learned ADHD. And I'm a grandmother or a Mimi to my 3-year-old grandson, Cooper. So big business or small business, your childcare is your business. So when it comes to making sure that you're insured, you need to make sure that you protect yourself, your family, and your business. It only takes one episode, one claim to create a whirlwind of lawsuits. And that could last months and months, and some of them last even years. You're dealing with small children And what happens affects their lives, and it can affect your lives. So, and it can affect you financially. So it's really important that you be educated and empower yourself with information. Lawsuits can be brought up until the child is 16, I'm sorry, till the child is 18 years of age. So make sure you keep your records. And I'm sure you saw with all the lawsuits going back and forth that have happened the past few years between the Boy Scouts and the church, they can put forth a claim after they're 18. So that's even more important. You need to keep your records up to 18, but I would say keep your records because you never know when you're going to be brought into a lawsuit. Our learning objectives today are business structure, corporation or DBA, understanding the basic coverage, general liability, business property, auto, and some abuse sample wording. Why do you need to protect your business and how can insurance help you? Jessica, don't listen to this because you're an attorney. We are grateful for lawyers, but we also have to worry because the lawyers are who sue us. So we have to really be careful about that. DBA or corporation. Some people want to do business as a DBA. It's easier. You can file it yourself. But the only thing is, if there's a lawsuit, they can go after your personal assets. So everything that you work so hard to create can be lost in a lawsuit. They can garnish your wages. So that's why it's really important to talk with your tax account to see what is the best way for you to go. You can go limited liability on corporations, and you only lose what's inside the corporation. So your personal assets are protected. Once you're named in a suit, the insurance company will represent you, saving you thousands of dollars in mental anguish. I don't know if anybody's ever been in a lawsuit, but it's certainly very demanding. It's very emotionally draining. And when you have to do affidavits and you're not sure who the attorney is, it's really pretty scary. You can do it online, create your corporation for about $1,500, or you can use an attorney. If you use an attorney, which I suggest, they make sure that everything is done properly, because you want to make sure that you have coverage before you have a claim. And one key important thing, I have it highlighted here, named insured on the insurance must match the legal name on the document. So if you do ABC Company and your insurance says ABC Childcare, in the event of a lawsuit, the company could say, we're insuring A&C Corporation, not ABC Childcare. So whatever the wording is, you have to make sure that it's accurate. Make sure it's spelled accurate. If the spaces are there, if the spaces aren't there, whatever the wording of your legal documents are, your insurance needs to match it. As a business owner, you're responsible for the liability, which is slips, trips, and falls. So this is something for the chat area. Get ready, Alyssa. Okay, if a child falls off of a changing table and gets injured, would you say it's professional liability or would you say it's general liability? Does anybody have a guess? No one's taking a guess. What about if a child's fingers gets caught in the door and it cuts the tops of his fingers off? This did happen to a daycare of mine. Anybody want to say what they think it is? Or if a parent slips and falls on the stairs? And lastly, if a parent claims that you did not teach them the curriculum that was stated in the policy program. Do we have any takers on that?
I've got one person saying general, but I'm not sure which one that was referring to. Thank you, Erica. You can go ahead and
Oh, the chat is
the chat is
disabled.
disabled.
Okay, let me fix
Yeah, I
that.
don't see any of the chats in my chat box.
Okay, well then
sorry, everyone.
we will fix that to try to make this more interactive. Thanks for letting us know that. Okay, I don't know why it's saying show chat preview.
I tried to look that up.
Can somebody try it again now?
Do we see any answers on there?
We get chat's still disabled. All right, I was able to write in it, but nobody can respond to me.
Okay. Marcia, would you do me a favor and
Sure.
possibly make me the host again?
Okay, let me see where I've got
So if
9
you,
participants. I see this over here.
yep, if you scroll over my name, you should see 3 little dots.
Okay, I
And if you
see.
click
I
on
may be
that,
able to do it. Let me
okay,
see.
perfect.
I just have mute or more. Make co-host. Okay, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I can't, so.
Okay.
All right.
6
Well,
attendants. Okay. All right.
Marcia, if
So
you don't, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
think, I'll try to work on it while we
Okay.
go through it. My
All right.
apologies.
that's okay. So we're all learning with this. Is a learning curve for everybody. So a child falls off a changing table and gets injured. Could be professional because the parent could say the teacher was negligent. A child's fingers get caught in the door. Accidents happen. There would most likely be under general liability. A parent slips and falls down the stairs. That would most likely be general liability. But if a parent claims you didn't teach the curriculum that was stated in the program, that would fall under professional liability. The general liability portion of the child care protects you, the employer, and your employee in case of claims or lawsuits. This not only covers the liability, but it also covers the litigation fees should an attorney need to get involved. The general liability is based on these things: the licensed amount. So if you're licensed for 64, they're going to base it on 64. They want to know what your average daily is. Sometimes if the average daily is a lot less, I can go in and say, okay, can we rate it on average daily? Because they're licensed for 64, but everything they happen, they only have 15. The companies look whether you're a sole occupant or in a multi-use building. I've had companies question basements. Some companies don't like basements. We have to have multiple egress. Hours of operation are huge. 6 to 6 is the likely way. 24 or overnight raises a red flag. They want to know who's with the children, where's the safety, where's the precautions, where's the child sleeping, all that information. Years experience. They want to know how many years you've been in the business. Some of my companies will only take if you're 3 years or more, and you have to provide loss runs. If your policy is previously canceled for non-pay, they pull it up. They don't want you. I'm having a lot of daycares that didn't pay on time and it went into cancellation a couple times. The companies say, nope, it's just too much, too costly for us to insure them, because every time they go into cancellation, we have to touch it, and every paper touch is expensive. And the last thing, your children are normally excluded in general liability. So if a child gets injured, they would not be covered under the general liability. If the parent gets injured or a visitor gets injured, that would be under general liability. For children, you need to have a student accident policy. This is your general liability section. This is what an actual policy looks like. So you'll see here, general aggregate is 3 million. Personal advertising injury is 1, and each occurrence is 1. What that means is the max they're going to pay out per occurrence is $1 million. Their max they're going to pay out is 3 million for the claim. So you can have a couple people injured. The max that they're going to pay out is $3 million. Medical expense to one person, that would be if somebody slipped and fell, not a child, and you just want to pay their medical bills. Now, if you're in the county of Erie, where we are, they require you to have 1 million, 3 million. If you don't have a county, you should still have 1 million, 3 million, because in the event of a lawsuit, it goes really quickly. What if someone does get hurt? So lawsuits happen mostly through slips and falls for general liability. It's the people that you least expect. So if it's a grandmother, they've been here for a long time, they'll never sue me. A month later, they see a commercial on TV and they think, you know what? I probably can get some money for that, so I'm going to sue. If a parent sues on behalf of a child, the money goes into the trust for the child. So the parent doesn't necessarily get the money. You need to fill out an accident report. You need to contact social service or CPS first, or CFS first, and then contact the company and put them on notice. Forward all documents from your attorney, from any place you received, to the company on a timely manner. Don't discuss the claim with anyone but your insurance company and your adjuster. Don't talk to your employees. Don't talk to your friends, because that can all come and be skewed if you need to go to court and they have to pull those people up. Submit the claims to the insurance company versus going out of pocket. If you submit the claim to the insurance company and a year later something happens and there's like a bad scar, or I had one where the child was supposed to go into modeling, and because they had an injury, now they can't go into modeling. If you insure it, if you have the insurance company settle, the insurance company will respond later on. If you do it yourself, you're personally responsible for the claims later on. And in New York State, the liability is based on the head count, like I said, of your site, and they want to make sure that you're licensed. So if you are being sued and you feel that the lawsuit has no relevance, can you demand that the insurance company, I don't think the chat's working, but do you think you can deny the settlement? Once you put it into the insurance company, it's up to the insurance company to move forward with it. They will decide whether to go to court and settle or not settle. You can say, well, this is bogus. They just want to get some money. I don't want you to settle. Well, it's not really up to you. Once you give it to the insurance company, they're looking to see what would be the most cost-effective way to close this claim. They're going to decide the amount that they're settling on. I had one, it was a commercial center. This was years ago. The child's fingers got cut off, and the insurance company offered $40,000. And the client said, no, that's way too much. I don't think you should do it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, actually, $40,000 is a drop in the hat. They lost 3 fingers. So the insurance company knows, the attorneys are well vested in this. They understand, they work for the insurance company, they know the coverage, and they know the exposure out there. Your student accident insurance, many child care centers do not have this. This is the part that's excluded from the general liability. It's a separate policy that covers medical expense should a child get injured. You can get 2 types of policies. You can get based on first dollar amount or excess. I usually tell people to do it the first dollar amount because it makes it easier. It's based on head count, and the minimum premium is usually $350. So if a child gets injured, you say to the parent, give me the medical bills. You submit it within 2 weeks. The parent has the money, the check in the mail, which shows a couple things. A, that you care about the children, so you're making sure you have the right coverage. B, it eliminates the opportunity for a lawsuit because they already have the money and the claim is closed. Is there any?
Marsha, the chat's working now, so if you want to ask any questions. go
Okay,
right
does
ahead.
anybody have any questions regarding the student accident? Does everybody understand that? Can somebody say yes or no so I can see if I'm seeing everything? Do you see any responses?
Yep, we have 1 yes,
Okay, for some reason,
2 yeses, understood.
okay, for some reason, I cannot see any of the responses. Okay, but you
Yeah,
can.
it
That's
might
good.
just be from sharing your screen, Marcia. So don't worry about the chat. We'll make sure we get the questions
Okay.
to you. Thank you.
Sounds great. Maybe if I go here. Okay. Professional liability. Professional liability comes when a claim states that the caregiver was negligent in her duties and caused a child to be injured. Now, it all depends on the wording of the claim. If the claimant says they were negligent, then it goes under professional. If they said it was an accident and my child just got injured, that would be under the general liability. So the professional liability is usually a separate limit. And it comes into play, like I said, if you were negligent when the injury occurred. Sometimes if it's not listed, it can be part of the general liability as a silent coverage. So if you don't see it on your policy, you need to contact your insurance carrier to make sure that you do have that coverage. It'll show you a separate premium. And if you don't have this coverage and you need to contact an attorney to represent you, you're looking at least $400 an hour, plus a lot of bad PR because it's going to take so long for this thing to get settled. So the best thing to do is be prepared. It's all about empowering and educating yourself so that in the event of a claim does happen, you're prepared ahead of time, not behind the 8 ball. And like I said, if you are a DBA, then you're personally responsible should a lawsuit come and it's over the limits of your policy. So here's what a professional page looks like. You have your aggregate limit of 4 million. Each professional claim individual would get up to $2 million. It's also covering vicarious liability. And vicarious liability means that For example, your employee wiped up the floor, somebody spilled water and they didn't put a wet sign on and somebody slipped and fall. You're responsible for the floor employee's action. So the employee then, it would be covered under either professional or general liability, how it's worded. But if it's covered under professional, then it would say that you were negligent in your duties. So here's like a brief snapshot. General liability is usually physical in nature, covers bodily injury and property damage, personal injury. So personal injury is libel and slander. So you're talking to another teacher about this parent, so, whatever, this parent's really lax, doesn't really care about their kids. They're always like blah, blah, blah. And somebody hears it and spreads it. And then it goes back to, where did you hear it from? I heard it from the daycare. That's libel and slander. Professionals, financial in nature. It's negligent, bad advice, errors and omissions, failed performance. For your particular type of business, it would be negligence and failed performance. So sexual abuse. If a claim is brought forth, the company will respond. Make sure you document everything. And if you're with the counties make sure that you do a lot of documentation, which is good. A lot of states don't do that. The more you have recorded, the better. Make sure you document dates, times, anything that pertains to it. Who was there? What did they say? And if it seems like it's going to be a big one, contact a public relations. If a claim goes in, some companies offer you their own public relations. For instance, I was coming back from an ECLC meeting in Albany, and I had a client call me and said, one of the parents said that I was discriminating against her handicapped child. So my answer was, okay, everybody, and she goes, and the news is outside. People want to interview us. Do not talk to anybody, call your board members. Let's have a meeting. Let's get ahead of this. It turned out that the company did not get a lawsuit right away, but we put them on notice because we thought perhaps they would. And sure enough, about 2 months later, a lawsuit was brought forth. This usually has a separate limit like I showed you. So if you don't see the separate limit, it could be part of the general liability. You need to really call your carrier and make sure. So this is what a sexual sample of an endorsement is. This should be on your policy. It says right there, sexual abuse. This is a 1 million, 1 million. I've seen a lot of them now because of everything that has happened. They're going to 100,000, 300,000. Please ask for whatever the max is you can get on the policy, because if you have $100,000, that the attorney fees alone would add up to $100,000. Umbrella coverage. An umbrella policy goes over the general liability and the auto if you have an auto. Sometimes it'll go over the professional and sexual. You really need to see what the umbrella company states. They usually offer limits from 1, 2, or 3 million. So you think about it, if you're sued under the general liability for 3 million, you have 2 million under your GL, that additional million would be covered under the umbrella. And if you have additional insureds, they want to make sure that you have this umbrella. I know that the Erie County requires that everybody has an additional $1 million umbrella, and they want to be named as an additional insured. What happens when you're named as an additional insured is you're taking care of all their responsibility and liability. So your company, your insurance company will represent you and defend them too in the lawsuit so that their insurance company does not have to respond. Another elective is crime coverage. You can get inside and outside theft, which is embezzlement. I've seen a lot of claims where the accounting person, took a little here, took a little there. You really didn't know until the person left. And then all of a sudden you're looking at your books. Now, why am I making so much money all of a sudden? And you go through and it should be the same as you did last year because your enrollment's the same, but yet you barely made money last year and this year you're making a lot. You should really have those people in accounting take off at least 2 weeks in a row because something will hit within those 2 weeks and you'd have a better handle on your finances. Business personal property, what needs to be covered? So if you have a commercial childcare, you make sure that you include all the contents and locations. So you might have to have an endorsement for the fence, if you put the fence in. If you have a shed, how far is the shed off the property? It could be still on the property. It has to be within so many feet. That's what you need to look at your policy for. Your playground, chances are, will have to be written separately. You have to make sure some companies add it on as contents, some want a separate endorsement. So you need to really make sure that playground is covered. A storage units. Now, a storage unit, you'd have to add it on as a separate location on your policy and cover everything that's in the storage unit. Sometimes the storage unit offers their own coverage, so you need to check to see which one is better for you. And these bikes, or these push wagons, they're pretty expensive. So you have to make sure if they're stored in the winter months in a storage unit, you need to make sure that they're covered somewhere. And a lot of people have things at their home. They keep them in their basement. That location needs to be added on if you want that contents covered, because it won't be covered under your homeowners. Chances are it won't be covered under your homeowners. So you need to make sure that you have that endorsement. Business personal property is covered inside your center. Check on, like I said, check on the playground, check on the fences. Awnings, it makes a difference whether the awnings are attached or not attached. How far are they away on your property? Make sure, like I said, the items in storage sheds are covered and in storage units. Here's a claim scenario. Let's see. And maybe the chat is working and you can answer this question. The tree falls on your building. This happened because remember the October storm. The tree falls on your building and forces you to close. Is your building covered? Yes or no? If you have building coverage. What about the loss of income? Would your loss of income be covered with that? No, your loss of income would, well, yes, your loss of income would be covered with that, because falling property on your building is a covered peril if you have an all risk policy. So therefore your building is out of commission because the tree fell. You have the tree removed and the building repaired if you own the building and have coverage, and you would have loss of income. But make sure you check your loss of income policy. Sometimes it's a 24-hour wait. Sometimes it's a 48-hour wait. So you really need to know what you're exactly covered for. Some companies have actual loss sustained on their loss of income. Some do a dollar amount. So you need to make sure that if it's a dollar amount, that the dollar amount is actually covered. Actual loss sustained means whatever your loss is, they will cover you, minus the deductible. So here's another one. A tree falls and blocks the driveway and you cannot open. Well, there's no removal for the tree, so you'll be responsible for removing the tree. And your business income does not provide coverage because it's not a named peril or covered in the policy. That was really a big issue when we had the October storm. And here's another one. The wind and snow pull out the electrical wires and you lose power. If the lines are ripped off of your building, you'd have coverage. But if the transformer box blows and burns, you would not have coverage because that's excluded. Some companies are now putting it on due to the October storm. So you really have to figure out your insurance company and what is actually covered. And I always say to my clients, if you see a commercial or you see something happen or you see something on the news and you don't know if you have coverage, text me then. I'll check on it the next day and I'll get an answer back to you, because it's all about giving you peace of mind. Business income, which is what we're still talking about. So now you have damage. So your roof is leaking and the employees like, well, it's not my business. I don't really care. You need to make the employees aware that if there's hazards and those hazards are left undone and a claim gets put forth, it increases your premium. It could cause you not to have insurance in the future, which ultimately affects the employees, because the more you're paying for insurance, there's only so much money in the pot. Either the insurance gets it or you as an employee get it as a bonus or a raise. So it's really important that they stay diligent and look, and if they see a claim, that they report it to you so you can handle it. And do we have any questions so far? Nope.
I don't see any in the chat, Marcia.
Okay. So like I mentioned, you need to be vigilant. This is the key one that the insurance companies ask. Do you have finger guards? See this child's fingers? That's what happened to that little child the door shut and they just chopped all the fingers off. So you really need to have like something to protect the door, something to protect the door from closing so that the fingers couldn't be in. Here's an example of one of them, a finger guard. You'll see it just slides on the door. I've got one here that I ordered. And you can just, these are animals, so they're fun. Here's another one. It goes up in the corner to protect it from opening too much or from closing. Here's one in the corner here. So you really have to look at your doors. The last session, somebody asked me for a link. This is one of the links for this particular kind. All you have to do is Google finger guard for children's doors, and you'll be able to find them. Here's the one that I was talking to you about all the animals. Amazon is great for that. You just punch it in and you'll see a variety. See which one is the easiest that you can install, that you can maintain, and that you can afford. Another potential claim area are these welcome mats. So you see this one right here? This is actually what happened to me. I was coming out, we use this for an ad for for safety for one of the insurance carriers, and the Child Care Resource Network actually did get one first prize, and it was a cash prize. My heel actually got caught in that round circles on the mat. I was walking out of a business and I fell into the street. I didn't actually fall, I lost my balance, but if a car was coming and it hit me, I'd be suing that business that had that carpet because my shoe was still stuck in it. So it's things like that that you have to look at. What could cause a hazard and what could cause a lawsuit? Proper maintenance. Even though you shovel, even though you put the sand out, if somebody still slips and falls, you're responsible. However, if you show that, look at, I did everything that I could and there just happened to be one small spatch of ice that they slipped on, the lawsuit would end quicker, hopefully, with not as much settlement because you did your due diligence. But if you didn't do anything, the company is really going to go after everything you have.
Marsha, we do have one question in the chat. Would you like me to read it out loud to you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Recently, we filed a claim because our ceiling collapsed due to water coming in from the roof and we were denied. Our claim was denied because we didn't see any natural damages on the roof, which was responsible for flooding or water entry into the premise. How do we protect ourselves from any future ceiling collapsing?
Well, they're going to look to see if their insurance policy is not a maintenance policy. So if it was wear and tear, if the roof was worn away for a while, and when they went up and they saw it and they go, well, this roof is 20 years old, it wasn't maintained, that could be cause for denial. But depends on if the water came in on the side, was it a contractor's negligence that did it? If it's a contractor's negligence, then you would go after the contractor.
Yeah,
Usually,
they said it was a brand new roof.
it was a brand new roof, then I would go after the people that installed the roof. Why should water be coming in if it was a brand new roof? They maybe didn't put something, maybe they didn't put the shingles right, or they didn't put the backing in. I don't understand why the insurance company wouldn't cover it, because water leak. But and although I'm going to say I don't know what kind of policy you have, it needs to be a special all risk policy, special coverage. So special coverage would be windstorm, hail, collapse of weight of ice and snow. All that would be covered under the special policy for childcare. So you'd really have to look at the coverage. You might have basic and that might not be covering it. Did that answer your question? Did they respond?
Yes. Yep. Thank you, Marsha.
Okay, making sure you follow policies and procedures. The counties are really strict. The state is really strict with it. Usually we don't have an issue, but you need, if you're supposed to check the vehicle for all the children and you don't, and then there's a lawsuit, well, you were negligent. So you're going to be paying out more because of your negligence. So the policies and procedures are there for you to follow, and the insurance company might deny it if you're not following the policies and procedures. The insurance company said, according to our guidelines and our underwriting, you agreed to follow the policy and procedures. Now, I was going to say something and I forgot. Hopefully they'll come back to me. So what do you do if you have a liability claim? First of all, you notify the police that a law might have been broken, notify your agent, make sure you have the time, place, person involved, nature of the incident, where, are there any witnesses, who was injured, make sure you get everything done. And like I said, only talk to your insurance company. You have to sign the statement of loss in order for it to investigate the claim, and it has to be 20 days after the request. So once you make the request, you have to sign the documentation. Every time you don't, it comes into an issue where the company could say, you're not following the guidelines that we set forth, and therefore we're not representing you and denying your claim. How to survive a lawsuit. Note the manner and date of service. Don't ever alter your records. If you do an accident report and you realize, oh my God, I put the wrong time on there, don't erase it. Make a note on a separate saying that there was an error on this and attach it to it. And make sure you initial it. Because if you erase one thing, the company can say, well, how do we know you didn't erase more? Don't talk to anyone except your insurance adjusters or the examiners. Make sure that you talk to them directly. If there's a fire, we have New York State Fire that comes out. When you get a hold, when they show up, they'll say to you, well, you know what, your insurance company's not going to handle it. Let me stop in here and I'll take over for you. I'll negotiate. Well, the moment you do that, you take your company and you take your agent out of the mix, and they take a percentage of your claim. So it would behoove you to work with your insurance company and agent first. If that's not working out, then do the New York State Fire Association. Then you can refer to them. But in the meantime, before you do that, let's see how your insurance handles it and takes care of it. Don't overestimate or underestimate the facts. See it, just state what you see. Try to take the emotion out of it. I know it's very exciting. It's very overwhelming, but just try to state the facts and try to state as clear as possible, because that means whenever you're interviewed, you will be consistent with your answers, because you're saying them calmly and what's happening, exactly what's happening. And like I said, don't resist your insurance company attempts to settle the case. They know what's happening. They know when to settle, because their ultimate goal is to get the claim done and to give a fair settlement and make it go away quickly. Now, we do have samples of sexual abuse policies. A lot of companies are requiring. They want to see the wording on your sexual abuse policy. I did give the Early Care and Learning Council has a sample of this. Here in the sample that I gave them, there's different highlights. You go through and you read and you put your information in. Now, I'm also going to say, as in any handbook, don't put anything in there that you're not doing. Don't just take this boilerplate and just put it in there. Read it, because if there's something in here that you're not doing and it says that it's in here and there's a claim, they're going to pull up this policy and procedure. And then they say, well, you said you're doing this, but you're really not. So make sure whatever you put in your policies and procedures manual, that it's actually things that you are following. This is huge. This is coming up with a lot of my daycare companies. There's also, I have a copy available for playground elements, roles and responsibilities, safety standards, inspection frequently. It's very important that you note the date and time of the inspection. So if something were to happen, let's say a child said that they were injured, somebody did something to them they were in the playground by themselves at 3:05 and something happened. Well, you went to that playground, you showed that you were there at 3 o'clock, you were there at 3:30, and there was nothing happening, there was nobody there. So they'll look at the time frame and how whatever it is that you did will correspond to helping you win the claim. Maintenance schedules, that's huge. If they said that this piece broke, but yet you inspected it that morning and you said it was fine, well, then that will help you in a lawsuit. Make sure the employees are trained so that they know what's in every room, how to turn off the water. A lot of employees don't know how to do certain things. So if something happened to the slide, what's the protocol? What do they do? If something happened to one of the playground equipment, what's the protocol for that? How are they supposed to handle it? they need to know ahead of time and you need to review it, because what happens is in the heat of the moment, unless it's ingrained in you, you won't remember. Again,
Marcia, we just have a quick follow-up, if you don't mind, from the individual who is talking about their roof.
mhm.
They said they're located on the ground floor, so flooding is always a concern. What should be added to our policy to ensure that we are covered for rain damages that are typically coming in from the sidewalk?
Okay, so if it's coming in from the sidewalk, that would probably be a flood policy, because water backup is if it comes in from a sump pump or from underground. If it comes in from the walls, if it comes in that way, that's considered a flood. So a lot of policies, I don't know of any policies really that cover flood. Flood's a separate policy. And there again, that could be pretty expensive. So let's see, more stuff about playground maintenance. So what I did is I created a critical contact information handout that if you want, you can let us know and we can make sure you get a copy of it. These are things that in meeting with all the daycares, at one time I had about 80 childcare centers pre-COVID. Many of them closed because of COVID. But this is important because you'll see things like public relations specialists, radio stations, if you need to get a hold of somebody really quick. Who does you, if you have a copy machine, who's your electrician, who's your plumber? These are things that you want to have vetted now before you have a claim and not after you have a claim. Because another key thing too is building an emergency enclosure. Somebody drives through. Remember, there was a point in time where everybody was driving through windows. Somebody drives through the window, you have to have emergency enclosure. Now you're panicking. Somebody drove through, you got protected children, you got to close the window. What do I do? You pull out this form. Oh, yes, that's right. Here's the person, here's the company that does emergency enclosures. They know about me. They know the type of business that I am, and you can call them. If you're not there and your employees need to reach out to somebody, that sheet is right there. You tell them to refer to that sheet so that they can call the right person and not just any person. Because not only do you have to have it covered, you're looking cost-wise to make sure that you're getting the person that you trust and that is most reasonably priced. Now, let's see, what time is it? 7:15. So many daycare companies have directors and officers if you're a not-for-profit. You can have management liability if you're for-profit. This is really important, especially if you have directors, if you have a board of directors. If you're on a board of director company, if you sit as a board of directors on some company's board and you are sued because of something that you did, the directors and officers coverage would respond. So you say something, and we'll go into this deeper, but if you, let's say you have a grant and the grant says you need to purchase an automobile. And you said, well, I really don't need an automobile. I'm going to put it towards my bills. And they come back and they go, oh, where's the automobile? And you said, well, I didn't use the money for that. You're held liable to give that money back if they so well deem it. And if there's no directors and officers coverage, the directors and officers would have to split that would have to split that claim. That's happened to a couple of people that I know. So you need to make sure that that they have the coverage, and don't sit on a board that does not have directors and officers, because you don't want to be personally responsible. Each board member is responsible for every board member in there. So if Joe Schmo says something that's offensive and the board is sued, well, I'm on the board with Joe Schmo, so I'm therefore responsible. Even though I didn't do it, I sit on the board with them, and you take over that responsibility. That's another thing. Make sure when you sit on a board, you're on a board with people that you know and trust. So the directors and officers coverage covers things like employment practice liability, fiduciary, workplace violence, and internet liability. Directors and officers covers the defense cost settlements and judgments arising from lawsuits or wrongful allegations against the nonprofit, or if you're a for-profit, a management company, management liability would do that. And like I said, it protects the individuals from personal losses, and it protects the legal fees and other costs. Directors and officers also offers coverage for breach of fiduciary liability. And like I said, you're responsible for each one of the board actions, the entire board's actions. The directors and officers policy is determined on many things: the potential degree of the risk, the size of the business, how many board members are on there, their experience. Like some people have a lot of board members. Oh, we want to have as many as we possibly can. The more people you have on it, the more opportunity for somebody to do something that's inappropriate that you could be held responsible for. Any questions about that?
Don't see
This
any
one
in the
is-
chat.
Pardon me?
I don't see any in the chat just yet.
Okay, this is another important one. Employment practice liability. This is huge. It protects for sexual harassment, discrimination, wrongful termination, breach of employment contract, negligent evaluation, failure to employ or promote wrongful discipline, and wrongful infliction of emotional distress. So especially now with COVID going on, some people could be saying, well, they terminated me for whatever reason. I don't think that was right. And they hire an attorney. It would go to the directors and officers coverage. And your DNO would respond. They would defend you, the business. They would defend the board of directors. So this really came into play. A lot of people, discrimination is huge. Even though we're termination at will, people can say, well, you know what? I feel like they said I feel like they let me go because I'm older and they're hiring all young people. Now they put forth the lawsuit. Your directors and officers, if you have employment practice liability, which is EPL, would respond. This is huge. The fiduciary liability. This is if you have like a benefit plan, your 401k, and you failure to, or health insurance, you fail to put somebody on, and all of a sudden there's a claim and they go, oh my God, I forgot to put them on, I forgot to enroll them. This fiduciary liability would respond to that. Workplace violence. If there's an incident where there's an employee is compromised due to robbery, healthcare, somebody threatens another worker, sexual harassment or quid pro quo. This would fall under the workplace violence endorsement. So you need to make sure you have that part on it. You can pick and choose on a directors and officers. You can pick and choose what coverages you want versus what they're offering. So let's just say I want employment practice liability. That's the only one that I want. Then you just check that and pay for the employment practice liability. You don't have to pick them all. You pick and choose to meet your needs. So I've kind of gone on and on and on, and we're at 7:21. So does anybody have any questions at all? I gave you an awful lot of information. Nobody has any questions? Does anybody have any comments? I know it's a long day for everyone. And this is really, this information, this insurance is not exactly the thing you want to listen to in an evening. We are having some upcoming trainings. One is workers' comp, who's covered, how's it rated? New York State Disability and Pain Family Leave. That's huge, especially now with the COVID going on, or a lot of people, our family members are ill. And then cyber liability. What do you look for when you choose a company and an agent?
Marcia, I just want to say quick, someone posted in the chat, Kate, she goes, now I have to go and read through my insurance policies.
So if you have a question about it, you can email me, you can take a snap of it. If you have like a specific section of liability or a section of the policy and you don't understand if you have that liability coverage or not, you can reach out to me, and if it's a company that I represent, I'll be able to tell you. I can look at your deck sheet, which lists all your coverages, and we can review that to make sure that you have what it is that you need. But yes, I know it's a tedious thing, but you want to make sure that you have coverage before you have a claim, and not after the claim, because insurance is a gamble. You play lottery, hopefully to win. With this, you're hoping you don't have a claim, but in the event that you do, you want to make sure that you have that coverage. So when you're looking at the insurance company, make sure it's an A-rated company. If it's a B-rated company and they have bankruptcy or they need to sell out, they might not cover your claim. It's not guaranteed. And in New York State, if it's an excess lines and it's admitted means the state will protect you. If it's non-admitted, it means if that company goes belly up, you're on your own. The state's not going to stand behind that company. Make sure you have local representation, that you can reach out and talk to somebody. It's good to reach out to the same person so that they get to understand who you are, what your business is, how it works, so that they can best make sure that you're covered. And see, some companies have public relation management assistance in the event of a claim. I had a claim where a vehicle hit another child and killed a child. The insurance company stepped right in. Now everybody remembers that a bus killed a child, but nobody can tell you the name of the daycare. And it's all that your reputation is huge when you're trying to build your business. One other thing that I don't have in here is auto insurance. If you're driving, make sure you have commercial auto insurance. It's expensive, but do not put them in your personal vehicle. Do not transport them, because if the event of a claim, the insurance company could say you're using it for livery back and forth, which means it's not covered under the policy. So make sure that if you do use automobiles or vans, that they're properly insured.
Actually, we have a few comments in the chat.
Sure.
We have someone asking if they have to use an insurance broker.
No, you don't necessarily have to use an insurance broker. Are you going directly to an insurance company? Direct?
That was their next question. Can we go directly to an insurance company?
No, most companies want you to use a broker because they make the deals with, they have the arrangement with the broker. I don't know of any. Years ago you were able to. I don't know of anybody that goes online. It's not like an auto where you would go online and get an auto policy. You really want to work with an agent or a broker, because you want to make sure you're covered. You don't, if you do it yourself, there's certain coverages you might not even know to have. Like you wouldn't necessarily know that I have to have a professional limit. Is it inside general liability or is it outside? How am I protected? What's my sexual abuse? How's my property covered? Is my playground covered in it? Are the awnings covered in it? That's what you work with an agent for. It's too complex for you to do it. It's like I'm not a child care provider. I wouldn't go into a child care and say, okay, let me run your business now. I don't know anything about it. I mean, I might know how to interact with the children and keep them safe, but I don't know the ins and outs of running a child care business. And that's the same as an insurance. That's not what your expertise is. Use an expert for your accounting, your insurance. Make sure you have an attorney. Those are all things as a business owner you need to protect yourself of, because you need to empower and educate yourself. So in the event of a claim, you have coverage.
Just a few last questions, Marcia. We're just wondering if I see your email right there, so I'll type that email in the chat. We have some folks wondering what your email is. And then last comment is someone has been with the same broker for 10 years. Should they shop around for better offers when they are ready to renew?
It really depends on your comfort level with your agent. Do you feel your agent knows your business? Do you feel your agent checks to see what's going on? I personally go to see my daycares. I make a visit with them because there are things that I will see that they won't see because they're in it. I'm gonna give you an example. You're in your house and you go on vacation. You come back to your house and all of a sudden you say, well, how did that market on the door? Or I never saw that chip on the wall, because you're there day in and day out. You need fresh eyes to go in and see what's going on. I had an attorney. I went over to his property. I'm like, where'd you get these pictures on the wall? They're collectibles. Oh, I don't know. I just took them from my home and put them on my wall. Well, I don't have them insured. Are they insured under your homeowners? If there's a fire, if they're stolen, they're not covered under me. He goes, I never thought about that. I went to a daycare, they had a bus in the backyard. I'm like, how's this bus? It's a bus for decoration or however they were using it. I said, well, where's the bus covered? Well, we don't know. Well, do you care if something happened to the bus? If the bus started on fire, would you want that bus replaced? They go, well, yes. Well, then it's not listed on the policy. Changes in your playground. What's underneath your playground? Did you upgrade your fence? Did you upgrade the shelter? Maybe you have a shelter now in your daycare. That's what the fresh eyes do. That's what your agent does. Your agent goes out there and looks at things or talks to you. If they don't make it out there, they make sure they talk. What's new? What did you add? What's going on? Your enrollment is up. Are you doing anything differently? Those are things because you want to make sure that you have the coverage. Any other questions?
None that are in the chat, Marcia.
Okay, well, I am certified as a trainer with Aspire Registry, so Jessica and Alyssa are working to see if you can get credit for this session. Everybody needs credit whenever they can get it because licensing is expensive. To get all your licensing credits is expensive. So if you like this, please come into the next one. And we'll talk about workers' comp, disability, and then cyber, which is huge. Cyber is the up and coming. You'll see that everywhere, every store, you can go online and see how many people are being hacked. You're no different. If your business is hacked, it could compromise you and your reputation.
Marcia, thank you so much for all of that information. I'm sure it was a lot to take in for everyone. And like they said, we will have this recording available so you can go back and refer to everything that Marcia had discussed. I don't see any other questions in the chat, but I did put Marcia's email and
well, you want
website
to put my phone number? Well, my phone number is on the screen, so people can reach me that way if they want to talk.
Perfect. And we just have a bunch of thank yous coming in the chat.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, everybody. And Alyssa and Jessica, if you could just stay on after you sign everybody off, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your hour of your evening. I know you're tired. It's a beautiful day. So I appreciate you wanting to empower and educate yourself.
Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
I still see 3 names up there.